What if the things that irritate a brilliant mind the most are not complex, unsolvable problems, but the everyday habits that make people stop thinking entirely? There is a strange kind of frustration that comes from having a mind that constantly looks beneath the surface. It is easy to imagine that people with broad interests simply love learning everything. And while that is true, there is a darker side to being a polymath. A polymath does not necessarily hate people, rules, routine, or even disagreement. What they often struggle with is mental shallowness, conversations that go nowhere, opinions repeated without thought, and environments where curiosity is treated like a problem. Imagine asking a simple question at work or during a casual conversation, only to hear the phrase, "That is just how things are." For someone who naturally wants to understand how the world operates, that answer can feel almost physically unbearable. It is not because they believe they are smarter than everyone else, but because the explanation feels profoundly unfinished. And that is where this gets interesting. The things polymaths detest reveal something much deeper about how their minds operate. They can tolerate being wrong far more easily than they can tolerate being unable to investigate an idea. They can handle massive amounts of complexity, but they deeply struggle with needless intellectual laziness. Today, we are going through 9 things polymaths truly detest, including a few that might perfectly explain why you have always felt a little out of place in the world. Number 1 is the demand for either-or thinking. One thing polymaths constantly struggle with is the desperate need people have to put everything into 2 mutually exclusive boxes. Society tells you that you are either smart or emotional. You are scientific or you are spiritual. You are highly creative or you are strictly analytical. You are either focused on success or you are focused on happiness. But real life rarely works that way, and the polymath instinctively asks, why cannot both be partially true? A person can be incredibly logical and still possess deep, complex emotions. Someone can love the rigorous method of science and still spend hours contemplating philosophy and the unknown. A person can build a highly successful, competitive business and still care deeply about cultivating a quiet, peaceful life. You can be extremely analytical with data and also create beautiful music, write compelling stories, or paint. The polymath notices these combinations because their mind naturally looks for connections rather than divisions. Imagine someone saying, "You are too emotional to be logical." A polymath will immediately question that baseline assumption. Why should emotion automatically destroy reasoning? Emotions can sometimes distort our judgment, sure, but they also provide critical data about what actually matters to us. Logic helps us examine that information without pretending the human element does not exist. The same thing happens with creativity and analysis. People often imagine a creative person sitting around under a tree waiting for mystical inspiration, while the analytical person sits in a sterile room dealing only with hard numbers. But some of the most profound work in human history happens exactly where those 2 sides meet. An architect needs wild imagination to conceptualize a building that has never been seen before, but they desperately need strict mathematics to ensure that building does not collapse on top of people. That is the deeper reason polymaths despise rigid either-or thinking. They understand that 2 apparently opposite ideas can often describe differing dimensions of the exact same reality. The mature mind does not rush to choose a side simply because choosing a side feels cleaner and requires less cognitive effort. Sometimes the best question is not which one is correct, but rather, what am I completely missing by assuming there can only be one right answer? Number 2 is intellectual territorialism. This happens when someone becomes psychologically attached to their specific field of study or work and begins treating any knowledge from outside of it as inferior or irrelevant. You see this constantly when someone says, "That is not your field," as though human curiosity requires a specialized professional membership card to operate. Of course, deep expertise matters. A surgeon spends over a decade studying medicine for a very good reason. An aerospace engineer needs intense technical knowledge before designing an aircraft. We should absolutely respect people who have dedicated years to mastering a singular domain. But there is a massive difference between respecting expertise and treating expertise like heavily guarded private property. A polymath naturally and effortlessly crosses those borders. They might study psychology for years, only to become intensely fascinated by neuroscience, which leads them to behavioral economics, which points them toward history, philosophy, and eventually technology. They are not necessarily trying to become the single greatest expert in every one of these subjects. Instead, they are trying to understand the overarching systems. They want to see how the puzzle pieces fit together to form the bigger picture. This is exactly where intellectual territorialism becomes so frustrating. Imagine a psychologist discussing human behavior, and someone from the world of evolutionary biology notices a brilliant connection. Instead of eagerly exploring that connection, the conversation devolves into a petty competition over who has the right to speak on the topic. Suddenly, the question is no longer, is this idea objectively useful? It becomes, who are you to say it? That arrogant shift instantly kills curiosity. Some of the most paradigm-shifting discoveries in human history happened precisely because an outsider looked at a familiar problem from a completely unfamiliar angle. Number 3 is the cultural obsession with premature specialization. From a very young age, we are asked, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" The implication is always singular. You must pick one thing. You must choose a single path, stay in your lane, and do that one thing until you retire. For a polymath, this societal demand feels like being asked which of your limbs you would like to amputate. Polymaths detest the idea that having multiple intense passions is somehow a sign of being unfocused, scattered, or uncommitted. They deeply resent the phrase, "a jack of all trades is a master of none," especially because society conveniently forgets the rest of that original quote, which goes, "but oftentimes better than a master of one." To a multidimensional thinker, focusing on only one tiny sliver of the universe for an entire lifetime feels like going to a massive, endless buffet and being told you can only eat plain rice forever. Number 4 is superficial explanations masquerading as actual knowledge. Polymaths detest the illusion of understanding. The legendary physicist Richard Feynman used to talk about the profound difference between knowing the name of something and actually knowing something. You can teach a child the name of a specific bird in 10 different languages, but at the end of the day, you know absolutely nothing about the bird itself. You only know about the humans who named it. Polymaths are deeply irritated by people who memorize facts, jargon, and talking points without ever understanding the underlying mechanisms. This often happens in classrooms and corporate boardrooms. A student asks a genuine, probing question about why a mathematical formula works the way it does, and the teacher, who only memorized the textbook, gets defensive and says, "Just memorize the steps for the test." Or an employee asks why a certain business protocol exists, and management says, "Because it is company policy." These superficial non-answers drive polymaths crazy because they reveal a terrifying reality. Many people are perfectly comfortable operating blindly inside systems they do not understand, and they get actively hostile when you try to turn the lights on. Number 5 is the relentless demand to monetize every single interest. In our hyper-productive, hustle-driven modern culture, there is a toxic expectation that every hobby, every skill, and every passion must eventually be turned into a side hustle or a business. If you learn how to bake sourdough bread, people immediately tell you to open a bakery. If you learn how to code a simple video game, you are pressured to sell it. If you spend your weekend learning how to make herbal salves out of weeds from your garden, someone will ask how you plan to scale the operation. Polymaths detest this mindset because it completely strips the intrinsic joy out of learning. They want to learn how to fix a vintage watch, study ancient Roman architecture, or understand quantum mechanics simply for the pure, unadulterated thrill of understanding it. Not everything needs an immediate return on investment. The constant pressure to make every thought productive or profitable feels deeply suffocating to a mind that just wants to play, explore, and exist in a state of wonder. Number 7 is the use of unnecessary jargon to hide incompetence. Have you ever listened to someone talk for 10 straight minutes using massive complicated words only to realize they literally said nothing at all? Polymaths have a highly tuned radar for this specific type of intellectual insecurity. They detest when people deliberately overcomplicate a topic to sound smarter than they actually are. To a polymath, true mastery of a subject is demonstrated through radical simplicity. If you truly understand a complex system, you can explain it to a 5-year-old. When experts hide behind a wall of impenetrable industry jargon, acronyms, and convoluted sentences, polymaths see right through the disguise. They recognize it not as a sign of high intelligence, but as a defense mechanism. It is a way to gatekeep knowledge and make others feel small so the speaker can feel big. Polymaths value clarity, transparency, and the democratization of ideas, making them natural enemies of those who use language as a weapon of exclusion. Number 7 is the inability to say, "I do not know." To a polymath, realizing they are wrong about something is actually an exciting moment. It means they just updated their mental software. It means they shed a false belief and stepped 1 inch closer to the truth. Because their ego is not deeply attached to knowing everything, they have zero problem looking someone in the eye and saying, "I have absolutely no idea. Let us go figure it out." Therefore, they deeply detest interacting with people whose entire identity is tied up in never being wrong. We all know people who, when confronted with irrefutable evidence that contradicts their opinion, will aggressively double down, move the goalposts, or resort to personal attacks rather than admit they made a mistake. This cognitive dissonance drives polymaths insane. To them, the truth is always more important than personal pride. Watching someone actively fight against reality just to protect a fragile ego is not just frustrating to a polymath, it is genuinely tragic to witness. Number 8 is being told what they have to do by people who cannot see the bigger picture. Because polymaths think in complex systems, they naturally anticipate outcomes that others completely miss. When they open up about a problem they are trying to solve, they are usually looking for a sounding board, a different perspective, or a new data point to factor into their vast mental model. But often people will respond by giving incredibly narrow, overly simplistic advice, followed by the phrase, "You just have to this." Polymaths detest the phrase, "You just have to." First of all, they know they do not have to do anything. Second, the advice is usually based on a one-dimensional view of a multi-dimensional problem. It's like telling someone who is trying to solve a Rubik's Cube to just make all the red squares face forward, completely ignoring the fact that doing so will scramble all the other sides. Polymaths see how all the sides affect one another, and they detest being pressured to take a simplistic, destructive shortcut just to make the people around them feel more comfortable. And finally, number 9. The deepest and most profound thing polymaths detest is any environment that treats curiosity as a threat. This is the root cause behind almost everything else on this list. From the classroom to the corporate office, society is largely built on compliance. Systems are designed to run smoothly, predictably, and without interruption. But curiosity is, by its very nature, an interruption. Asking why we do things a certain way inherently implies that there might be a better way to do them, which directly threatens the status quo and the people who benefit from it. Polymaths detest the unspoken rule that questions are a form of rebellion. They hate the subtle social cues that tell them to quiet down, stop overthinking, and just go with the flow. They are not trying to be difficult, arrogant, or contrarian. They are simply driven by an insatiable, burning desire to see what is underneath the surface of reality. When environments actively punish that desire, it does not just annoy the polymath, it crushes their spirit. Ultimately, what multidimensional thinkers are searching for is not endless validation or an award for being smart. They are searching for a space where their mind is allowed to breathe, expand, and connect without constantly hitting a wall of artificial limitations. If you recognize these frustrations in your own life, you might just have a mind that refuses to be put into a box, and you should never let anyone convince you to stop asking questions. If this perspective resonates with the way you think, make sure you subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on more deep psychological insights, and watch the next video on your screen right now to keep expanding your mind.